I truly believe that life has its own way and path for each and every one of us. And if this is the path that I needed to take and gone through in order for me to tell that story and inspire the people to pursue their dreams and burn their boats and understand how critical thinking works or whatever, this is part of the journey of a general. It's not just me.
Welcome back to Curiosity Class, the podcast where we break down complex topics into easy to understand ideas and bite-sized pieces. My name is Jeff Album, and I've been a curious person my entire life. Inspired by Albert Einstein's quote, "If you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough," we aim to make learning accessible and engaging. On this show, we're going to bring you experts from various fields, ranging from personal finance to physics, to help you understand everything from 401ks to how airplanes fly. So let's dive in and satisfy our curiosity together. Welcome back to another episode of Curiosity Class, everybody. I am super honored and humbled to be joined by my good friend and mentor, Amit Kadosh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
Dude, you have one of the most amazing stories I think I've ever met of somebody in person, and I'm sure we're going to dive into it. Do you want to give just everyone a little bit of background before we get into kind of the meat and potatoes here? So who are you? Start from the beginning and bring us up to today, because you haven't done that much. So.
Well, every time I've been asking this question, I always try to rephrase it and think who I am today. And the answers always keep changing. So who I am today would be ex-CEO of a startup company named Èncourse. Founded the company 4 years ago. Prior to that, I was the head of sales for an agricultural food manufacturer back in Israel. 26 years old, proud reservist, and a huge foodie. That's basically who I am today. So yeah.
You touched over it, but you've done so many things. And I remember last time we hung out, I was like, dude, how old are you? You're like 26. It's like, oh my God. I feel like you've lived like 5 lives.
It's like I told you, like for me, every time people ask me like, wow, you have so much accomplishments like for your age. And I was like, listen, you don't understand. My years is like dog years. I'm 144 right now. This is basically my age. So yeah, pretty old. I don't know if you see, but pretty old.
And no gray hairs yet. It's amazing.
No, but only balding. So yeah. A little bit.
Okay, so where do you want to dive in first? Do you want to start with Èncourse? Do you want to start with the ag food manufacturer? Where do you want to go?
So basically, I think those two are very much aligned. So I think if you want to understand the story of basically Èncourse at the company and how we got to Èncourse, like we have to dive deep into the final end of my previous position at the company that I was working with.
Okay, let's do it. So what was that company?
Yeah, so the company was named Yachin. This was the name of the company. It's basically like Del Monte over here in the States, pretty much the same. Kosher canned vegetable foods, that's what they're selling. Pretty big company. I started working at the company around early 2020, something like that. And I've been working for the company for almost a year and a half by that time. I fill up my dad's shoes. So my dad worked at the company, the same position I did, for 22 years before he got to another company to be the VP of sales. And I got into his shoes, huge shoes, you try to always keep up with your dad. And it was an amazing experience, very nurturing experience. And, it comes down to the question of the first, how we came up with Èncourse. And I always tell people that are looking, for that Cinderella story, all of the founders usually have, I came from the problem perspective. I engage with the problem on a daily basis, whatever. We got to this we founded this company by an absolute mistake. Okay. I didn't want to start a tech company. Not at all. It was a huge mistake. It was a mistake that turned out, to be the best mistake I ever did. But yeah, so during COVID, at my time at Yachin, all of the retail customers of mine had tons of food waste, and that's what we wanted to do initially. Like I told them, hey guys, you're wasting so much good food. You throw them on a daily basis, because they cannot align the inventory, COVID and stuff.
So just to pause for a second. So they were getting canned food in, they were using it for whatever they were using it for, and then they were throwing a lot of it away.
Exactly, and not just canned
Okay.
food. Like in general, mostly what they were selling, throwing away, was the short life storage ingredients. So fresh bread, talking about fresh meats, fresh fish, all of those kind of stuff, fresh produce. That was the biggest food waste for all of them. And what we wanted to do is like, hey guys, maybe there is a way for us to sell that, surplus food at a discounted price for customers and avoid leftovers. That's what we wanted to do. And I talked with two of the biggest retailers, and they say, okay, we have a green light. Like, this is the budget. Like, let's figure it out. And I did it on the side, and we ended up having a platform that really matched people with the ideal leftovers from retailers. That's what we wanted to, but for them to buy the leftover food.
Okay.
And we stuck to that.
These were people, so like individuals or other companies?
Yeah, exactly. It was so the idea was super simple. An app that you and me can buy the good leftovers fresh, okay, at the same day, just another hour at a discounted price. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to avoid food waste. And as we progress towards that, what happened, it's so amazing to say. Most of my work transitioned to be on that project rather than my work on Yachin.
Okay.
So all of my focus has changed. All my energy has shifted towards that. And I remember my boss came to me and said, listen, like, I know you do that on the side, but you're not performing, my friend. Like, you have to do something. You have to choose. Like, it's either us or this.
Sure.
And I remember asking myself, like, how much do I believe in what I'm doing? Which is, it's correct. Because again, we didn't have money. Like, they only sponsored the building of the platform. And I wasn't a tech guy when we started. Not at all. I came from 8200 and stuff, but I wasn't really like a tech coding guy, who know how to build startups. It wasn't that type of experience. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to Tony Robbins and burn the boats on that one. That's what I'm gonna do. And I decided to burn the boats, and I gone all the way with it. So I, hand my keys back to Yachin and gotten full time on the company. And that's how we started. That's how Èncourse started, by complete mistake. Like, didn't want it. It was a side project.
Oh my God. Okay. And so also I think it's important to say, so I think we mentioned Èncourse a number of times, but you recently sold Èncourse.
Correct.
So that's kind of the end of the story that I think is really important to talk about.
Oh, yeah. But we ended up selling the company, so it wasn't that bad of a mistake.
So it was a great mistake. Okay.
It's all by Lord's given. So yeah.
So okay, so you decide to hand in your keys. You quit your job at Yachin. You're going all in on this new idea that you have to put people together with leftover food. This is an amazing idea. Like, I'm so curious, when you, like, that day that happened, you gave your keys back. It was probably in the middle of the week. The next day you woke up and you were like, holy smokes, like, now what? Like, what did you do? What was that day like for you?
Like, sorry for my French, but one word, if I need to sum it up, it was like, fuck, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now. Like, it was just like that. I woke up and I remember, okay, I have no job. I have this project that I'm working on. Am I a lunatic? And the answer was yes.
And this project is not paying you. You're not making any income from this. Okay.
Not paying you. Starting, to build in the platforms. So we had something like, technology. Like, we have something that we can start working with. It was so, uncooked and not really ripe to go to market at all at that point. So
and who else is included? It's you and who else?
So it was me. So when I left it was just me. And then the retailers that were my friend that were sponsoring that, they were like, listen, because you're not working in Yachin anymore, we cannot join you on that coup. So basically I left alone. Like, I left alone with all of the technology and all of the platform. And I was like, okay, what I'm going to do. And I remember I have, this is something that I also teach in, at the entrepreneurship courses at the MBA at Technion and NYU, which I give guest lectures sometimes, is Bootstrap 101, the foundations of bootstrapping. a company lays on three things. The first one is critical thinking. I think we talked about that previous conversation.
Yeah.
Critical thinking. The second one is resourcefulness. And the third one is volume negates luck. Those are the three rules you have to remember. Those are the foundations to build a healthy, and for me at least, I don't know if successful or not, it's just my first business. But this was work for me, not just in Èncourse, in any aspect of life. So.
And Amit, I want to stop there for a sec, because I think bootstrapping is a term that you hear a lot in the tech and startup world. Can you define that just in very simple terms? Like, what does that mean? What does bootstrapping mean?
Super simple. So bootstrapping means that if you start a company with no outside capital, everything comes from within. So a founder's going to put the first capital, starting with zero capital. This is also an option. Everything every start that doesn't include outside capital or outside capital.
Got it. So no, venture capital firms are coming in and giving you a big check, and so your startup is totally self-funded.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that was that point.
Okay, got you. Okay, so the three skills are critical thinking, volume negates luck, and
resourcefulness.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, those are the three main pillars. That you can build like a company on top of that. And you mentioned VC, which was super funny. I remember that. So usually the Israeli market, I don't know if a lot of people know that, but the Israeli tech scene, the best tech scene there is, startup nation they call. The industries that we are super focused on in Israel, and they are very highlighted, is cybersecurity, of course, is cyber insurance, fintech. Those really on the three main stuff that Israeli know how to do very well, and of course deep tech, and I'm not talking about aerospace and whatever, and defense tech as well. But those are the main thing that you can see in Israel very broadly across the entire startup nation. For us being a B2C marketplace consumer in Israel was insane. I remember going into doors of VCs, knocking on doors. I'm like, hey guys, I want to speak. And they're like, oh, this is the B2C guy. Close it. shut him down. We don't want to see him.
And B2C is business to consumer, right?
Business to consumer.
You're selling, you're the business and you're selling directly to consumers, as opposed to B2B, which is business to business, right?
Exactly. So if we're talking about the type of different business structures you have the B2B, which you business sell to business, pretty simple. You have a B2C, which you sell directly to consumer, not really directly, it's like business to consumer, which is different. You have also D2C, which is direct to consumer. That's mostly e-commerce. You sell directly to the consumer. You don't have any business in between. What we did is a marketplace. And marketplace usually are a B2B2C. And what do you mean by a B2B2C? You're the business in the middle who connects other businesses with consumers.
No, you're talking about you're knocking on VC venture capital doors, and they were like, "Oh, it's the B2C guy. Like, get him out of here." So you were bootstrapped, not intentionally. You didn't want to be bootstrapped.
Not intentionally, of course. Like, who wants to loans for eventually for the company? Like, it's insane. Who want to do that? And I ended up understanding that, okay, at first, it's also part of the story, which is quite critical. Because I didn't know how to build my own startup, I did the most obvious. I went to those VCs and asked, okay, guys, I don't want money from you now, but let's say that you would be willing to invest. What would you want to see from me that will guarantee a check?
Yep.
And every VC, they give you their own list. Like, bring 3 or 4 design partners, big ones, huge brands, have a little bit of traction, have customers, have a co-founder, a technology co-founder, have a product, have something like that. And they're giving you the list. And I remember that I looked at that list and I was like, if every VC has its own list, it doesn't really make sense, because eventually, if you're gonna apply to one list, it would be good for the other. That's what we thought.
Right.
And what happened is, when I started to put the pieces together and start to hear in those VCs, one point that we couldn't successfully put a check mark on was the traction. And that was the only thing that for the VCs, holding them back from investing. And I keep like at the point, I reached to a point that I was so mad on all of those VCs, for sending me doing homework over and over again and wasting so much time, because you have to remember this. From the moment you met a VC, okay, they keep their eye on you, whether they want to invest or not. And what they're doing basically is they know, like, the further you go into your project or venture or whatever, the less capital you're gonna have, the more negotiation leverage they have, because come to them later with less money and more desperate, and
Got it.
they can leverage it. So it's very important to remember that. So I reached to a point when I was like, I don't have nothing to lose. They already say no to me. So I remember one conversation I had with really well-known VC back in Israel, and they said, listen, it's almost there. We just need a little bit more traction. And I stood up and I asked the guy, can you define traction to me? He was like, I don't know. I was like, he was like, you want a traction? Define traction.
Right.
What is the numeric number that you want to see from me on a metric that will give you like the green light to invest? Is it $1 million revenue? Is it 1 million downloads on the app? What is the metric? What is traction? No one knew how to answer that question. And when I understand, like, nobody knows how to answer that question, especially not the VCs, then they basically doesn't know what they're talking about.
So
talking in our industry.
Sure. So from there, what did you do? You stood up, you walked away, you're like, okay, now I don't have any money from VCs, but how are you?
So now the mindset have changed. And this is something that is very, I think this was the tipping point that really switched what we did back in the days. So a quick reminder, or, a quick notice. What Èncourse did when we sold the company wasn't what we did when we started. It was a different thing. We pivoted the company. So it's basically, flip every idea, flip technology, like changing direction. And so what Èncourse did when we acquired, we basically developed an app that helps people decide what to eat. So we developed an AI model. It's like DoorDash on steroids. We developed an AI model that helps identify all of your culinary preferences, and by that, find you the ideal items from the menus of restaurants nearby you. That's what we did, and we did it very well. And this was the.
And you also you minimized, like, you didn't have to search for what you wanted. It kind of gave you ideas of what it thought you wanted.
Exactly.
And you could like, it was like Amazon one click almost. You opened the app and you clicked a button and like your food came. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, pretty much to that level. And so coming back to what I'm talking about shifting the mindset, is after I gave up on the idea of VCs, the mindset from like, okay, we just need to bring this and stay a little bit, like, to hold a little longer so we can get the money, shifted. Now the mindset was like, how we can do it without the money, which is a totally different mindset, totally different question. Because up until that point, you're already thinking like, yeah, we're so close to raising funds, we're so close. That, when I'm talking to startups and they telling me we're so close to getting money, I was like, you're not. You're the farthest. You're in the farthest point of getting money. If you think that the way you think like that,
right?
No, the mindset have changed at that point, and we're like, what we can do without money, how we can do it without money, and then when creativity starts, and we had those amazing breakthroughs and processes that we implemented in the company that allowed us to run super fast, super lean. At that point.
And so, I mean, that sounds amazing, but like, obviously on a day-to-day basis, you need some, like, it's a great mindset, but how do you survive? Like, how are you paying rent? How are you living? How is the company not going bankrupt?
So not all the time. So, founders usually are not proud to tell that story, but man, I worked at two other jobs in the meantime. I had employees, okay? I hired them. I hired employees. I gave them equity, gave them shares, gave them salary, and I got my own salary from two other jobs that I was working, with the startup itself. And the reason the people usually look at us and say like, wow, this is not good. You're not committed to your startup. It's because they're relying on the VC money, because the VC money,
Right.
like, they want you to do it 100%. Absolutely, I will do it. Give me the money. I mean, how do you expect me to maintain that? On the contrary, when I see, like, I always ask, founders who come to me and want to do like angel investment and stuff, and they tell me about their startup. And I was like, okay, you bootstrap, that's nice. What do you do in your free time? Do you work in another job? Some of them like, yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about it. He's from the side. I was like, no. Highlight it, please. This is one of the key strengths, because you're walking in towards of something bigger, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You're sacrificing. This level of commitment, it's the highest level of commitment that VC or anyone can see on a founder. If you have a side job or a second job or third job, in order to make your dream come true, bigger commitment than that, come on.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're
yeah.
working two separate jobs to basically pay your living expenses and continue to pile money into the company, pay employees, pay them, give them shares, give them salaries, etc. And at this point, is the company making any money, like, on its own? Like, is
Not
the revenue greater than the expenses?
so not yet. I ended up taking so I ended up putting my upfront capital, and I also I took a loan. I took a
Okay.
loan from the bank for the company, not a small one, I must say. And we started with that, and I told myself, this is my budget. Imagine that I gonna take this huge loan, and I don't mind putting it on fire if I need to, because this was the mindset that I had. It was like, burn the boats. I don't care. This is experience. It's my tuition. I'm paying for my tuition. That's what I had
Right.
in mind at that point, that I'm paying for my tuition. And so at that point we haven't really had revenue. It just was the sort of the beginning. We just flipped the company, pivot in the right direction, and then we like thinking about where in the US we're gonna launch. And we ended up deciding on Austin, which is also a story of itself.
So just to kind of recap, it started as this marketplace that you're going to take these extra food that retailers had, and you could sell them directly to people. They could get like discounted, fresh, like the excess leftover food. And then you decided, okay, that's not working. We're going to totally pivot. So now you're thinking through what you're going to do. The company's still not making money. And you're like, okay, we're going to try this other totally different thing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was that story. This was my last bet. And so at that point we had like I think only one angel investment in the company that I brought, very small, talking about like $50,000 check, very small
Okay.
check. Consider, to
And
uh,
what were your monthly what was the company's monthly burn at that point? And burn just meaning how much were you spending on a monthly basis?
between 10 to 15,000.
Okay, so that $50,000 check gave you about 2.5, 3 months.
No, it gave me. It was just recouping to what we already lost. So yeah, something like that. 2 or 3 months. That's
Got
what
it.
we.
Okay.
And I remember that. I think the moment, like, it was very close to the moment we decided to pivot and launch in Austin. So
Okay.
it's exactly the component we needed to launch in Austin.
Wow. Okay, so you guys end up launching in the States, and you knew, was the reason you went to the US just there's a bigger market? Like, what was the rationale for coming to the States?
I mean, we always wanted to go to the States. That's because of bigger money. If you think about that strategically, okay, and you see, so yeah, especially talking about founders that came in from not non-US founders, okay, they don't understand how much the US market is valuable in terms of consumer habits. Because here, it's very common to see big spend, willing to get the highest quality and customer satisfaction, and in each state the consumer habits and consumer trends are changing. So in New York, for example, they care about quality, less about the customer experience. Here in Texas, they must, like, the hospitality is a must. Customer experience is a must, and it can reduce quality a little bit, but like they have it's a different market. So you have to identify the trends to which market you really want to focus in on. And I'm talking about even Uber and DoorDash, when they started in the zip code, not in the level of state, not in the level of city, in the level of zip code. They wanted to start. Why? Because this type of businesses, okay, marketplaces in particular, and consumer marketplaces, they have to create something called liquidity in the marketplace. Liquidity in the marketplace basically means that you have supply and demand. Okay, this is a marketplace. You have two sides. For us, the supply side was restaurants, because we connected restaurants. They had their inventory, and we connected consumer, which is our demand. So creating liquidity in the marketplace is basically means supply meets demand, and you monetize. That's basically what liquidity means in the marketplace. And in order to create that liquidity, especially for a food online ordering marketplace, you have to create a scenario where you have constant flow of orders, okay, online ordering, matching the amount of supply you can supply to them.
Okay.
That's what you need in order to create that. And we thought about, like, where are we going to start? And of course, we set it up. Started in Austin, not just in Austin. We started in downtown area. So for us, this was the win.
That's amazing. And that's actually how we got connected, was when you were in Austin, and we met up and became friends that way.
Yep. The first time we connected, it was like, hey, I'm building this stuff. Yeah. We just launched over here. It's going to be big. And keep in touch. That's what we...
So, and this is, I mean, I feel like we could talk about this for hours, but I want to make sure we touch on it. So you launch in the States. That was in 2022, right?
Yeah.
So mid 2022, like summer 2022 or late 2022?
No, it was late 2022. It's talking about November, December.
Okay. So late 2022, you launch in the States. And I know we're about to fast forward over all the craziness, but I want to make sure that we hear about the sale, because that story is, I mean, all your stories are insane, but that story is the insanest of the insane. So walk me through, what was the sale like? Talk to me.
Wow. So yeah, fast forward on what happened after we pivoted the company. Is the company was doing good. We had almost 22 employees on board, making revenue, almost hit, like, I think, $2 million in revenue. We were supposed to hit over $2 million in revenue by the end of this year.
Okay. And was it profitable?
Cash flow positive, not just
cash flow positive. Okay.
Positive. Wow. Yeah. So we had cash deposits, which is very important. It's very important, by the way, to distinguish between being profitable and having a cash flow.
So yeah, what is that distinction? I didn't know that there was a difference.
Yeah. There is a big distinction, and it's very important to notice. My suggestion and tip: number one thing founders needs to know is you have to handle your shit. And when I'm talking about handling your shit, you have to understand terminology of money and how finance works. So cash flow positive. Let's talk about profitability. Profitability basically means you made a deal, okay, for $10,000 product. You made a sale, and the product only cost you $5,000. Okay, so you have $5,000 in profit, but it doesn't mean it's going to be in cash, because you have expenses. This is only the profit,
right?
But you have expenses. You have the stuff you need to put out there. So even if you, like, in the profit might be 5,000, but all of your expenses is like increasing, is more than 5,000, you're not cash flow positive. You're losing money.
So that's a case where you could be profitable but cash flow negative still.
Of course. A lot of businesses are. A lot of businesses are.
Got it. Okay.
Some point is good. Sometimes it's not. So this is where unit economics come to play, and basically controlling your P&L, which is profit loss.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you were both profitable and cash flow positive.
Yeah, we're profitable and cash flow positive. Things were doing pretty good at that point, and I had a ticket back. So I was living on the line between Austin and Tel Aviv for the past 4 years with the company and stuff. And what happened is, I went back to my family to visit my family back in Israel around late September, starting of October. And
2023.
2023. And I had a ticket back to Austin on the 10th of October. And we all know what happened on the 7th. A few days later, I found myself enlisted, joined my reserve unit, the IDF. I'm a telecommunication combat officer. and doing pretty amazing stuff under the 8200 branch and much more other places.
And
And
do you want to explain just 8200, just for those who haven't heard of it? What is Unit 8200?
sure. So Unit 8200 is basically the intelligence, the most prestige intelligence unit in Israel. They develop most of the software technology for the entire idea. That's what they're doing. Cybersecurity, all of those kind of stuff. A lot of companies, a lot of cybersecurity companies, huge one, came from 80 to 100 people. Talking about Asaf Rappaport, which is the founder and CEO of Wiz, and all of those kind of people came from 80 to 100. So 80 to 100 is a very well known unit in Israel. I wasn't 80 to 100 fully. I was the operational side of 80 to 100. On the field, I served in the Alpine unit. So Alpine unit is the one who doing skis at Mount Hermon at the northern border. That's what we're doing. It's doing ski and shooting. It's nice. It's fun. Dangerous and fun. So, and I got to my reserve unit at the IDF, and I have all of the R&D who was in Israel as well. We had like 9 people who were here, was also enlisted. Some of them to all of their units, whatever. And
R&D of Èncourse, of the company.
R&D of Èncourse, yeah. R&D of Èncourse. And what happened is I told my business partners that are in the States, hey guys, listen, like we're not going to continue operation because we don't have R&D.
We're a little busy.
We're a little busy with something else right now. And we just signed a partnership deal with one of our POS distributors around August, something like that.
Okay.
So the guy came up to me and said, listen, I don't want you to freeze operation. Let's see how we can make it work. And I was like, okay. I thought about maybe a partnership, maybe something, maybe gonna delegate. I don't know what composition he thought about. And then he came back to me and said, this is our offer. We're gonna acquire you for this and this and this. You have 72 hours to reply. Yes or no, no negotiation. And and we're like, okay. I haven't even thought about being acquired by that point.
I just want to make sure people understand like the context of which this is happening. So you are living in Austin. You go back to visit family in the early October. October 7th happens. 3 days later, you're going back into the reserves. You tell your business partners in the States, hey, we're going to freeze operations because half of our employees are currently fighting a war.
Like that,
and they say, great, we're going to actually try to acquire you. Here's an offer. Go think about it. And you're not sitting at home. You're in the battlefield.
They called me up. It was 10:30 p.m. I was in my outpost, stationed outside, looking for a receipt that will help me survive this Zoom meeting. That was the scenario. Fully uniform, fully gear, everything outside. It's cold, middle of November, 10:30 p.m. Yeah, that's what happened.
That is insane. Okay, so they give you this offer. They say you have 72 hours. And you say,
like every founder, especially Israeli founder that have a little bit of sense, I thought to myself, okay, that's nice. Now I have 72 hours to find a better deal. That's what I have. That's what I thought, super greedy, super business oriented. I don't care where I am. That's what I thought. I thought like I have very strong attitude.
Oh my God.
God, I think God have other plans. And it is have other plans, and life has its ways to unfold before you, and for you, of course, in a way that really, like, I'm still amazed by that. What happened is, on those 72-hour period, me and a couple of my squad units got hit by an anti-tank missile. Over the north, we've been spotted. We did an operation. We've been spotted. We got hit by the anti-tank. He missed us by, I think, like 4 feet. So flown off the blast, and on our way to the hospital, I remember asking myself, like, what are my priorities in life? What is the thing that I want to be focusing on for now, at least? I've been building this company from scratch for 4 years, and it's never ending. It's a never ending race. And what are my priorities? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And the one word, in one word, was family. That was, for me, why I did what I did. And when it hit me, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna search for a better deal. I'm just gonna sell the company, and I'm gonna focus on what matters to me.
So you responded yes?
Yeah.
From the hospital?
I sent them an email, send the documents. I'm gonna sign everything.
Oh my God.
We started the due diligence process around December. We finished by the end of January. I got back to the States to finish with the acquisition here in Dallas. And once I finished, I got back and joined my reserve unit as well. I didn't plan to stay here. Like, I've been here for a month. I took my stuff and got back to fight. And I've did that for the past 8 months. And I just got back to Dallas 3.5 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, that it's like, I don't know how, there's no words to describe the ridiculousness of everything you've just said.
I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking about that. I truly believe that life has its own way and path for each and every one of us. And if this is the path that I needed to take and gone through in order for me to tell that story and inspire the people to pursue their dreams and burn their boats and understand how critical thinking works or whatever, this is part of the journey of, a general. It's not just me. And try to stay humble while doing that. Eventually selling the company, everything wasn't supposed to happen the way it is, even in the beginning. Like,
Right.
as I mentioned, everything happened for, like, we thought it was a mistake. I didn't plan to. I only followed the breadcrumbs, delicately, humbly, and really, like, that. This is what we did. We haven't had, our, yeah, it wasn't like showing off. It wasn't like we were so prestige. It wasn't like the Sequoia put money in us. That it wasn't that stage. It was like, we're humble, we're small, but we're gonna make it day by
Right.
day, step by step. That's what the mindset until the end.
Dude, it's unbelievable. You have an incredible story. I cannot wait to see what you do next, because I know it's going to be whatever you do, whatever you decide to focus on it's going to be an amazing adventure. And I'm just honored I get to be here and watch.
You're gonna take part of it. Don't worry. I have plans. I have plans for you.
I'm looking forward to it. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you and see and follow you and see what you're doing? Are you on social media? Are you connected that way?
Mostly LinkedIn. If you want to reach out, I have an open door policy. You can see on my posts and everything. Everybody knows I have an open door policy for everyone, but it's come with a but. There is a big warning sign on the door, says non-filter. Okay, non-filter. So if you want to knock on the door, you want to speak to me, more than happy to give you my advice, give you my help anywhere, any way I can. Non-filter. Like, it's got to be a super honest conversation.
It's the most Israeli way.
Of course, I don't know any other way. It's like the humane way you can do. I'm doing a favor to everybody, by being so honest with them and not just telling what I think. And this is what my philosophy. You're never gonna hear me say, "I think you do something wrong."
Right.
I always come from a point to startups who talks with me. I always come from a point that they know much better than I do on their startups and their domain, because they have to. Like,
Right.
I did. I studied the market for so long. I studied the market in order for me to understand and have that ability to control and have all of the aspects in aligned. So I can always come from a point that they know much better than I do. All I have to do is gonna ask questions, and that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you so much as a friend, as a mentor, as a human being on this earth. It's pretty special to get to watch what you're doing. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Listen, it was a pleasure of having you and speaking with you always.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Looking forward to catching up soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, everybody.